Hello and welcome to episode 3, how and why you need to set specific instructions when trying to get results. This is the first in a 7-part series on taking action that gets results. Today in part 1, I'll share the importance of setting specific instructions when taking action. But before we dive in, let's take a step back and give this some context. In episode 1, I shared 3 steps to get the results you want in your own life so you can build a healthier, more balanced life, whatever that means to you. And those steps were: step 1, take the right kind of action over time. Step 2, check your thoughts over time. Step 3, get the right kind of accountability and support over time. For the next several episodes, I'm focusing on the action over time part, because it doesn't do us much good if the action that we take is random or inconsistent, right? It's like, oh, I took that action for 2 weeks and it didn't work, or I took the action for 4 weeks. Learning how to take consistent action over time, the right kind of action that will lead to habits, that will lead to you benefiting from taking that action so that you can see the results. That's what I'm focusing on in the next 7 episodes. Really, what we want are these new habits or these lifestyle changes that will have us feeling a little healthier and a little more balanced. Now, I'm not talking about perfection or doing this 100% of the time, but that the default is that we're taking this action, or our default is that more times than not we are blank. So let me give you an example from my own life in terms of sleep. So about 6 months ago, well, it's been on and off for several years, where I have noticed that I'm really just not getting the sleep that I want or need to feel rested. Now, this is a whole separate episode where I will talk to you specifically about sleep. I have a whole coaching program on sleep. Let me just make a sidestep disclaimer here. I'm not a medical expert. I'm not telling you or my clients these are the things that you need to do for sleep. We want to get curious as to what things will work for you, because something that I do for myself that helps me get better sleep may not work for you. I do like to gather information from the experts so that I can help guide my clients and myself into, hey, maybe try this. But I'm not trained to talk to you about, in depth on how your hormones affect your sleep, in depth on how stress affects your sleep. No doubt that those things do. And we can, brainstorm some actions to take around that. But I'm not the expert on these different subject areas, although I do like to gather information. So many times in my coaching programs or modules, I'll say, according to Dr. Breeze, these types of sleep hygiene, activities can help you get better sleep, but it's not coming from me personally. Okay, sidestep back into my sleep. So I started getting curious as to what is going to help me improve my sleep. And I needed to take the actions that I had determined seem to help me with my sleep and do those consistently over time. Now, like I said, I'm not going to get in this episode as to what all those actions were. I did a lot of self-coaching. I did my own 6-week sleep program, and I came up with some things that I know help me get better sleep. My point here in this episode is that I don't always do all of those things that I know will help me get better sleep, because I'm not a robot and I'm not living in some perfect, world, or I have to get perfect sleep all the time Again, my business is keep it simple, keep it real. We have to be realistic. So as I'm recording this, it is nearing the end of the holiday season. And so even though about 6 months or a year ago, I did the work, I took the time to take consistent action, and I developed my own, sleep hygiene routine of things that help me get better sleep. And I'm so excited and grateful that I did that, because I do have some habits and behaviors that I know will help me get better sleep. And when I implement those, I get results. But I'm not always implementing those, and those results are not 100%. So even when I'm being mindful of and doing my actions, does that mean that every night I sleep like a baby and never have any issues? Heck no. Does that mean that 100% of the time, every day and night, I'm doing all of my little steps that I know will help give me good sleep? Heck no, right? Especially the last several weeks through the holiday season. So for me, and again, this is for me, this doesn't mean this is necessarily right for you or what I tell my clients to do, but a couple of the things I noticed when I was working on my sleep is that if I can get to bed and asleep around 9, I sleep much better. If I get some fresh air during the day, if I spend some time meditating, if I don't eat, right before I go to bed. Literally, sometimes I'm eating while I'm in bed. If I'm not like binge watching, Netflix until 10:30. Again, I'm not judging myself or others on all this, but I notice those things. So that those things affect my sleep. In the last few weeks, I haven't been getting to bed at 9. I haven't been consistently, getting fresh air. I have been staying up past 10. I've been finishing binge watching the series I started while eating, candy canes or chocolate chips or whatever. I'm not judging myself, but I've noticed that I'm getting a little out of balance, right? I'm not striving for perfection, but that my default in general is that yes, most nights a week, I'm doing these things in my sleep hygiene routine that help me. The last several weeks, maybe even month, it seems like I'm doing more things that are not conducive to getting my sleep. Like I've been going to bed late. I've been on my phone up until bed. I've been eating late. So now I know that I can be aware of that and just shift a little bit back into doing those more sleep promoting activities. So I'm not saying that we're going for some like perfection, like, and that I'm not judging myself or throwing in the towel like, oh, well, now my sleep is all screwed up again. All that intention and work I did before was for nothing because I can't maintain good sleep. So we need to make sure we're not just setting ourselves up for some perfection and just getting curious. So I'm moving myself back to more balance in terms of my sleep. And before I can take all that action and really work on my sleep, I have to go back to what I talked about in episode 2, which is, what do I want? Do I really want it, or do I just wish it? Right? And I've gone through the wishing phase in terms of my sleep the last couple of weeks. Like I've noticed probably in the last 6 weeks that my sleep I'm having more nights than not that I'm not getting good sleep. And so I wake up in the morning, like when it first started happening, telling my husband like, oh, I didn't get very much sleep last night. I wish I was sleeping better, right? I wish I was sleeping better, but I wasn't motivated enough to stop, doing all the things that I'm doing, like staying up late at night, watching my show, eating late at night. I was just in that, oh, I wish I was sleeping better. It was probably on a 1 to 10, maybe a 3 to 4. And then over the past couple of weeks, I'm stepping back going, okay, this is what I want. This is starting to become more important. I really want to start feeling more rested. I want to get back more into my routine that includes, my sleep hygiene practices. So that's why it's important to step back and ask ourselves those questions. And that's what I help coach my clients on and teach them how to self-coach. And it's very important that you realize that we're doing this without judgment. I'm not judging myself or shaming myself for staying up until 10:30, finishing my Netflix show while eating M&Ms. I'm stepping back and getting curious, like, I keep doing that. If I say I want to get better sleep, but I continue to go to bed at night and do those things, maybe it's not really something I want. So again, when we're doing all this, there's no judgment. As soon as we get into the judgment and the, oh my gosh, I took that time and worked on my sleep 6 months ago, and now I've just like thrown it all away. As soon as we start looking at it like that, we're really going to sabotage ourselves from working our way back into a little more balance. And not only would that attitude not affect my sleep, but it's also going to affect my attitude about everything else. Like, oh, and I notice I haven't been working out as much these last 4 weeks, and I notice I've been eating more sugar. And I just really have to be mindful of, don't get into that negative narrative. It's fine. Just shift the balance a little bit the other way. Okay, good stuff, right? For me, these were such mind-blowing insights. Oh, yes, it's so much easier to do these things when I'm not judging and shaming myself, when I'm not thinking that it's an all or nothing, oh, yes, remember a year ago when I was getting good sleep? Well, that's gone. And also looking at my motivation. It was fine. It was only at about a 3 for a while. And now wanting to shift back to my sleep is like a 9 or 10. Okay. So how do we take action? The action that I have realized in the last few weeks that I want to get back to taking consistently so that I can consistently get better sleep. Again, we're not striving for some 100% perfection. So there are 7 steps to taking the right kind of action that's going to lead to results. And I listed these 7 steps in episode 1. I'm going to list them again. And then in this series, we're going to spend one whole episode on each step. So here are the 7 steps. Number 1, set specific instructions. Number 2, start small and break down your goals. Number 3, keep track. Number 4, make your goals work for you. Make them pleasurable. Number 5, set up accountability to others. And then you can set up that accountability to yourself. It's one of my favorites. We'll talk about that in a whole episode. Number 6, forgive yourself. And number 7, celebrate your wins and be grateful. So over the course of the next several weeks, I'm going to devote one whole episode to each step. And today's episode is step 1, set specific instructions. So if we have this desire or this overall goal that we want, when I'm asking myself or my clients, what do you want? Again, all about episode 2. Sometimes we'll start with the general, right? What do you want? Well, I want to work out more. I want to eat healthier. I want to lose weight. I want to have more energy. Or for me, I want to sleep better. I want to feel rested, more rested when I wake up in the morning. And again, be careful that we're not setting ourselves up for some perfection, right? So I believe 100% in my clients that they can do it. I believe in myself that I can do it. But we have to be realistic and not set us up for some perfection. Unless I sleep like a baby 8 hours every night, I feel like I'm not doing well with my sleep. Or unless I don't let anything, quote, unhealthy pass my lips, then I'm not fulfilling my goal of eating healthier. No extremes. I am the former queen of extremes. Let me tell you, it does not work. It does not last. It does not feel good. So we're talking about moving one step closer. So a lot of times we're starting with that general, right? I want to work out more. I want to eat healthier. I want to lose weight. I want to have more energy. I want to get more sleep. So what's going through your mind right now? What do you want more of? We start out with that general, and then we step back and say, what does that look like specifically as your end result, or the habit you're going for, or that goal you're working towards? So if you say, I want to work out more, then we're going to say, what does that mean, working out more? Let's be specific. What is it that you would like to do specifically, consistently over time that'll give you the results you're looking for? Like the results of working out 3 to 4 times a week consistently over time as just your default, right? So we might get consistent, like, working out more means I would like to work out 3 to 4 times per week. And not just do that once a week, not just do it twice a week, but do it consistently. Now, let me take you back to my sleep story. That doesn't mean that some weeks, maybe some weeks something comes up and you only work out once that week, or maybe you're sick and you don't work out at all. Don't get into that mind drama of, oh my gosh, now I've lost that. Okay? So we're talking about consistently. So that's being specific. Maybe it's, I want to work out 3 to 4 times a week. Be specific so you know exactly what it is that you're going towards. If you say, I want to eat healthier, well, what does that mean to you? And again, that's what I love about coaching, is that it's individualized, right? What will get you, not your neighbor, not me, not your coworker, for you, what does it mean to eat healthier? Not healthy, like, oh, I'm going to try to be healthy or not, but healthier. What does that mean to you? What would it look like for you to get one step closer to eating a little healthier from your baseline of where you are right now, right? And all our baselines are different. So for you, eating healthier, a little healthier now might mean, okay, I'm going to eat pizza 2 times this week instead of 5 times this week. Great. That's up-leveling it just a little bit, being specific, not striving for some perfection, meeting yourself where you are and getting specific. So maybe a little healthier for you means, okay, I'd like to have 3 days this week where I am eating energy-giving foods and I'm not eating high sugar foods. Okay, that's where we have to get curious and look at where you are right now and set some specific instructions. So maybe eating healthier means I want to meal plan. That's going to help you feel a little closer to eating healthier. Then instead of saying my goal is I want to meal plan, what does that specifically look like right now? Oh, then I want to meal plan 2 days this week. So I've been a speech language pathologist for 29 years. At the time I'm recording this, I recently retired from that full time, but I wrote goals all the time for my clients. And many of you listening might be in a position where you write goals or you write plans for students or you develop this. So this is nothing new and earth-shattering that when we set a goal, we need to be specific and have it be something that's measurable. But I want to encourage you to get curious about not putting this into extremes. And that's what we'll talk about in the next episode, that we also need to start small. But I'm just going to touch on it a little bit right now. So if I'm saying I'm going to eat just whatever you deem healthy or energy-giving foods 2 times next week, that's great. If you're not eating energy-giving foods at all, then you don't want to be specific and say, next week I'm going to do it 7 times. So for me, with my sleep, I'm starting to shift, so a little bit away from those practices that I know will help me sleep. And that's where I've noticed, right? Like, instead of just 2 to 3 nights where I'm getting to bed past 9:30 or 10 o'clock, it's been maybe the norm has started to be 3 to 4 nights. So instead of telling my brain, oh my gosh, now you have to start going to bed at 9 o'clock every night, I'm going to rebel. My brain's going to rebel. So I'm going to set my specific action for, just a little bit ahead of my baseline. So, okay, I'm going, 2 nights this week, I'm going to get to bed by 9 o'clock instead of realizing that I'm falling away from that and trying to go to extreme. And we're not talking about that I'm only, quote, eating healthy if I never eat pizza or whatever. That's just not realistic. Okay, so being specific. So the losing weight thing, a lot of times people will tell me, I want to lose weight. And this is a whole other episode and program. But when I'm working with clients that tell me they want to lose weight, really I want them to see that losing weight rather than a goal is really the result of different actions, right? And many of my clients have lost weight, a lot of weight, and it's been the result of doing other actions. So I'm not saying that I discourage people from saying my goal is I want to lose weight. Then we talk about, well, what does that mean? What would you need to do over time to lose that weight? And let me tell you, and again, this is coming from training that I've received, other experts, disclaimer, I'm not, someone who is an expert in weight loss, but I will tell you the good news is that there are many behaviors that lead to weight loss and weight gain that might surprise you. It's not all just about what we eat and how much we exercise. But again, that's a whole other program. So I tend to focus more on, rather than I want to lose 5 pounds, let's break it down to what kind of things do you feel like you would need to do to get to that. And it usually is things like move my body, eat energy-giving foods. I talk about energy-giving foods. I have a whole program on eating for energy and what that means rather than just focusing on whatever, quote, healthy is. This will be a whole podcast series as well. Good stuff coming up. But back to the specifics in actions. At the end of every call and module, I coach my clients on the specific action they plan to take, right? And that's what I want to leave you with. So rather than I want to eat healthy, I want to plan meals, how many? I'm going to plan 2 energy-giving meals in the next 7 days. That's a specific instruction. I'm going to do 2 meditation sessions in the next 7 days. I'm going to stop looking at my screens 20 minutes before bed 2 times this week. Be specific. It helps your brain get ready to do the action. So for me, as I've mentioned, my sleep has started to shift. My specific action that I'm going to do in the next 7 days, and I'll just tell you here, the podcast community, is that 3 times in the next 7 days, I am going to go to bed, in bed, screens off by 9 o'clock. Okay, so the next step, there are other steps to that, leads into that. I'm starting small and breaking down my goals. I'm going to keep track. I'm going to make my goals pleasurable. I'm going to set up accountability. I'm going to forgive myself if it doesn't happen and get curious. And I'm going to celebrate my wins. All right. I hope this was helpful. If you'd like to connect with me and talk about your own goals and actions, then you can find out how to do that in the links below in the show notes. Until next week, keep it simple, keep it real as you build your own healthier, more balanced life.